Hello everyone, and welcome to this video, which is in our Reengineering the Chess Classic series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and welcome to the final video in this series on Dawid Janowski. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. I knew some of Dawid Janowski's games, and I knew he was a creative player, but I had the idea that, really a little bit lightweight, nothing too amazing. And, playing through his games, looking at his tournament record seriously, you suddenly realise, what a great player he was. And, if he wasn't, as great a genius or as great a practical player as players like Capablanca or Emanuel Lasker, well, that's no shame. It's you can still be a wonderful player and still have so much to show. I think these 25 videos, I think it's going to be. I think they've really shown, the mark of a quite remarkable player. This game was played against Dawid Lasker in New York International 1924. It wasn't too long before the end of Dawid Janowski's life. He died in 1927. He was past his peak, but he was still capable of playing some amazing games. And I first saw this game when I was about 9 or 10 in Dawid Lasker's amazing book, Chess Secrets I Learned from the Masters. And, when you see games like this and read Dawid Lasker's descriptions, you can't help but fall in love with chess forever. So we're going to go through it and see what the engines have to say. We're going to whiz through the first part, just look at a couple of highlights, and then we're going to focus on how on earth did this position come about. So the opening was a London system. Janowski played this quite a bit towards the end of his life, and reasonably successfully as well. And actually the most crucial moment came at around move 15. And Janowski had played a little bit oddly. Lasker had played quite well, but there's nothing too bad in the position. But at this moment, Janowski decided to play the quite amazing queen takes c8 check. And after knight takes c8, play h takes g4. So you've got rook and piece for the knight. But black's just an awful lot better now. It's a queen, and white's pieces aren't so amazing. But somehow, the game progressed, and Lasker didn't play badly, but just at times a little bit inaccurately. And somehow his pawn structure got fractured, and we reached this position. And as you can see, this has got not too bad at all for white. Rook's nice and active, knights on great outposts. But Dawid Lasker pointed out in his annotations that here there was a great opportunity for him, which was to play the move e5. Oh, what a move! Obviously, d takes e5 allows king c5, and f takes e5 allows queen takes g5. He played the move bishop c6. And after knight takes e6, well, white had got a big mass of pawns there and some very active knights. And things went all a bit wrong for Dawid Lasker. And by move 42, they had reached this position. What does white have? White has still rook and knight for the queen, obviously, but those three enormous connected passed pawns. And the black king is in a little bit of trouble. Now, in this position, what does white need to do? White just needs to move the pawns forward, essentially. And, that knight on f3 is a great piece. It really stops a huge number of checks. So that's actually going quite well. Now, maybe, in this position, Janowski could have most profitably played just simply rook b7. The queen comes to h1, and then we can just take on a7 check, king b6, rook check, and then the engines want to give a few more checks, and then we play f5, and the king is sort of safe, but you've got rid of that a pawn. That's probably quite useful. Janowski didn't bother, and that is also very, very good. He just played the move f5. Also giving his king a little escape square out of checks if ever it's required. So queen h1 was played, and now knight b3 check, king a4, and knight bd2. And what Janowski's doing there, he's protecting his king, also giving himself the opportunity to protect his pawn, his b pawn, and at the same time, the pawns are just free to roam forwards. So queen h6 check played by Ed Lasker, king f2, and now bishop to d3. So I guess white was sort of threatening to play b3 when the king would have to retreat, so getting the bishop out of the way. If b3 check, now the king can come in and, well, he can try and get close and do something, maybe, whatever that is. But bishop d3, rook g8 was played by Janowski. Not 100% sure why rook g8, why that was absolutely necessary, but yeah, it's a reasonable move. Queen f4 was played by Ed Lasker, so obviously looking for the e4 pawn, and now this clever little idea, rook h8. Rook e8 was fine too, but this is quite clever. Bishop takes e4, will go rook h4. So b3 was played by Ed Lasker. That's yeah, I mean, that's hard to really tell, but I think the idea was that he was thinking probably to put the bishop on c2, have it anchored there, and at the same time you're trying to stop these pawns from moving. But yeah, hard to be sure that that's going to last forever, because rook h4 was played, queen c7, and now f6. Yeah, I mean, so far Janowski's done it very, very nicely there. And here Ed Lasker played the move bishop c4, just trying to get the bishop back to this diagonal to try and stop the pawns. And I mean, I think here there was a lot to be said simply for the move knight takes c4, and after queen c4, rook f4. This really looks like the most powerful and the most human to me. You're just getting behind the f pawn, and if queen f7, you'll just go d5, and well, I mean, d6, d7 is an idea. Even something like knight e5 followed by f7. This is just going to be completely winning. You absolutely know that. Even e5 to e6, give away the d pawn so that the f pawn can move forwards. That would have been a really simple and human way to play. Janowski played rook h5. It's a little bit strange what he decided to do. Somehow you have the feeling that he just decided he was going to be absolutely brilliant here. And after bishop e6, he played the move rook e5. And after queen f7, he played rook e6 takes and e5. So just given the rook up for the bishop. It seems a bit extreme when you could have just exchanged it off for a knight, really, but gave up the rook for the bishop, and now these pawns are going to walk through. But yeah, with two knights fighting the queen, white's going to be just a little bit slower here, and black does have counterplay. That a pawn that you omitted to take is going to flow down there, and we're going to create a pass b pawn. So I mean, there's going to be danger, and that's what Edward Lasker did. So king b4, king e3, a5, and now an amazing moment actually, because white's actually sort of in a way wasted quite a bit of time here, and then given black this counterplay, and it's actually getting a little bit crucial. White's actually got to make a hurry just a little bit, and the engines thought here that knight g5, queen f5, knight e4 was necessary, and after a4 we go e6, a3 we take, and we go e7, and after queen d7 now we come back. We get the knight round to d2 like that, and then we're going to try and bring the king in and support the pawns forward. We'll give up the knight for the b pawn. We'll have knight against queen, but yeah, massive pawns there. So that's what the engines were looking for there. But Janowski played king f4, just a little bit weird in a way. I mean, yeah. What are you doing with that king? What exactly? How exactly are you going to support anything? And the engines actually thought that queen d7 was 0.00, so they thought that that there was now enough time, because the problem is that you're hitting this d4 pawn, so this knight on f3 can't really move to g5, and if you go knight to e4 or something like that, I go a4. And now we're getting a3, and well, this b pawn is quite fast, and knight d2 we go king c3, and the fact that this d4 pawn is hanging means that black's going to get an awful lot of checks. I mean, I wouldn't be confident in saying yep, that's a draw, but the engines think it is, and well, I'll kind of trust them on that. Just in general terms there, I mean, I do feel that white's wasted a lot of time, and this move king f4 is a little bit strange, because yeah, you don't really quite understand how the king is really helping. I mean, if you move up to g6 or something, then you're just putting yourself in the way of checks. But a4 was played by Ed.Lasker, knight g5, and now we're back on track. Queen d7, and then f7. There we are. So queen takes d4 check. We just go knight e4. These knights doing a sterling job of covering everything. And after queen d8, well, we'll have stuff like just wondering. Actually, I think knight e6 is still going to be good enough there. So what actually happened here was that Ed.Lasker played queen e7. He's just really trying to keep the game going for as long as possible, keep the queen in the mix, and then play with a3. But now the pawn comes. d5, a3, takes check, and now not taking on a3 but king c3, trying to bring the king into the mix, trying to well, to make a few threats, you know, maybe bring the king into a threatening position and try and make white a bit nervous there. But d6 played, queen to f8, and now knight ge4 check. Now, in all fairness, you could just have taken on b3 here. That would have been perfectly fine, and then you bring the king in, and then the pawns, you know, the pawns will roll. The knight will come out here. It would have been possible as well. Probably would have been the most thematic there. Knight de4 is what the engines want. They're just calculating and saying e6, b2, e7, and yeah, well, we're just going to queen 2 pawns. Black might have 2 queens, but we'll get 2 queens. These 2 guys will queen, and well, these knights are doing a great job of stopping any dangerous queen checks, basically. So that would be absolutely fine. For example, queen b8, e8 queen, b1 queen, f8 queen, check, king h5, and the white king is completely safe there. So that would have been great, but knight g4 check was fine too. King d3, e6, queen h6 check, king f5, and yeah, I mean, you can try and check. You know, you can give a check. I go king f6. You can give a check there. I go king e7, check there. I've got enough pawns always to defend to defend me, and then we're going to queen pawns and, well, queen another pawn, and it's just going to be finished. But after king f5, Ed.Lasker played b2, d7, queen f8. And now a funny little move from Janowski. I think he was also enjoying himself here. He played a4, just preparing to move yet another pawn up. So Ed.Lasker played queen a8, and then here Janowski played the great move e7, and that's the position more or less that we had at the start of this video. And have you ever seen anything like that? 3 connected pass pawns on the 7th rank in a real over-the-board practical game, and this pawn on b2 ready to queen as well. So queen d5 check was played. Ed.Lasker kept on fighting, king f6, and now this very clever idea. I mean, you know, if you'd gone something like b1 queen, simply d8 queen, and well, queen a1 check, king g6, queen g1 check, king h7, queen h1 check, king g8, queen g2, king f8. The king's safe, and we're just swapping off the queens and then queening another pawn. That would have been very easy for Janowski to deal with. But Ed.Lasker played queen d4, and now, yeah, again, it's one of those things where, you know, you say, ah, Janowski, you played so well all this way, you know, but yeah, just a blunder at the end happened to Janowski a lot, especially as his career, you know, as he got towards the end of his career, really. I think stamina was a problem. I think it was New York 1924 where they said that Janowski was the best player of all of them for the first 3 hours of the game, but then after that he just yeah, just started to fade and made lots of mistakes, because king g6 was simply winning here, and after b1 queen we go d8 queen, and there's just no good checks for black. I mean, queen b6 is maybe the best there. We take, we go king f5, and then you're just not going to be able to stop the pawns from queening. We just head away, and yeah, you know, there's just sort of yeah, you know, there's just no, those 2 knights are protecting so much, you know, that there's no more checks, and then e8 queen is coming in. But I guess Janowski was tired, and he didn't really think that it would make much difference, but he played the move king e6. And this is actually a very serious error. Why is that? The point is, Ed.Lasker played b1, And now I imagine that to his horror, Janowski suddenly realised that d8 queen would allow queen a2 check. Queen a2 check, and well, the king has to go to f5, and now you've got queen f7. Now, the irony about this is that the engine drawing line is queen g, king g4, queen e6 check, king g3, king e3, takes, knight f3 check, king e3, knight f6. And this looks like it's just completely winning for white still, because, you know, after queen f6 we've got e8 queen, and after queen takes e7 there's knight d5 check. However, what the engine wants is king d3, e8 queen, takes, king c4, and yeah, the king is going to win this a4 pawn. There's no way you can stop it. The irony being that if Janowski hadn't been clever and he'd left his pawn on a3, we could just go knight d2 to b1, protect the pawn, and it would be completely winning. But just that little clever move a4, showing how much he could do, what the dominance was, that's turned out to be absolutely fatal, and black will draw this position. So yeah, I mean, I don't imagine that Janowski calculated this. I imagine that he saw that queen a2 check was very unpleasant and didn't fancy trying to calculate the resulting position with two queens. So he played knight takes b1, queen takes e4 check, and now it is just perpetual. There is just no way that you can avoid perpetual. For example, king f6, we go queen h4, king d7, queen g5, king e8, queen h6. King g8, queen g5, check, f8 queen, queen check, can you believe it? King d8, queen a5 check, king e8, queen h5 check, queen f7, there's queen there's queen h8 check, queen f8, queen h5, king d8, queen a5 check. It's just a draw. You can try and come out the other side, and I'll just keep on checking you. It's just all drawn. Yeah, just really, yeah, I don't know, a huge shame there, really. It's just such an incredible position, and that Janowski didn't win it is completely criminal, of course, but somehow, you know, fits together with the ups and downs of his career, you know. But in any case, it is one of the most spectacular and amazing positions I've ever seen, and yeah, you know, what a game. And I hope it's a good game to finish off this this series for you. You know, yeah, you know, I hope it's given you a nice impression of these players, and just, you know, it's another reminder, I guess, to certainly to me and to all of us, I guess, that it's not only the world champions that are worth seeing. There's an amazing amount of players, some incredible players who you know, didn't make it maybe to the absolute top of the game, but at their peak moments they were capable of some quite amazing things, you know. And yeah, Dawid Janowski definitely was one of them. So there we are. If you like the video, why not do the standard thing, give a like, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends. I saw that somebody had mentioned this channel on Reddit and got a boost of 100 subscriptions, so thank you very much to that viewer. Very, very much appreciated. And otherwise, you know, take a look at my new book, Reengineering the Chess Classics, full of stuff like this. So many crazy positions in there. And you know, otherwise, thanks very much for being part of the channel, for supporting, and well, plenty of stuff planned in the next few weeks. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for new videos. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Thank you.